George is in a hurry this morning, and no wonder. The mail carrier is arriving at the farm where he lives. George just knew there would be a package for him, a really big package. What do you suppose is in that package? In just a moment, we'll see. It's a new suit, a new wool suit that will help him keep warm in winter. And there are 2 new cotton shirts that will look neat and cool in the summer. And there's a new necktie. George is pleased with his new clothes. But suddenly, he wonders, where did my suit come from? Where was it made? What was it made of? Then George had an idea. He'd go to see McTavish. Maybe McTavish could help him find out. Now, who do you think McTavish could be? A sheep. This is George's very own pet sheep, McTavish, and he is being sheared today with all the other sheep. In the spring, the long, heavy winter wool of the sheep is trimmed off. But where does the wool go after it leaves McTavish? George doesn't know, but he thinks he knows how to find out. He's going to write a letter. Then he'll fasten the letter to the wool from his sheep, McTavish. This is what the letter says. Dear friend, this wool came from my pet sheep, McTavish. Please write and tell me what happens to the wool and how it is made into clothing. Yours truly, George Moore. Isn't that a good letter? Well, George hopes it is. Now, let's go along with George's letter and see what happens. First, a railway train took the wool and George's letter to a woolen mill in Massachusetts. Here at the mill, a man named Michael Flaherty found George's letter and read it. He decided he would answer George's letter, and this is what he wrote.
Dear George, the wool from your pet sheep came to the factory where I work. The first thing we do with wool is inspect it and sort it. Then we wash it in big vats, because the wool comes to us very dirty and greasy. The tangly wool is combed and combed in a carding machine until it comes out all smooth and fine. Spinning machines twist and tug the wool and spin it out into yarn. The yarn is dyed different colors. On this weaving machine, the yarn moves back and forth until there's a big roll of new woolen cloth. This is the wool cloth we make in our mill. But we only make cloth here, so I will send your letter along with the cloth to the clothing factory. Your friend, Michael Flaherty, Newton, Massachusetts.
So George's letter and the wool cloth arrived at a factory in New York City where wool clothing is made. This is David Rubin, who found George's letter. And he was kind enough to answer the letter, too.
Dear George, my job is in a clothing factory in New York City. I take the wool cloth and lay out a pattern on top for cutting. Then I cut out the pieces for many suits all at once with a special cutter. There are many expert tailors here in the factory who sew the pieces together. These people work very fast, each of them making a different part of the suit. Some of the machines sew buttonholes, and others sew on cuffs and sleeves. So suits are finished, ready to go to stores and be sold. Your friend, Dave Rubin, 1358 Claremont Street, New York City.
New York City. My, but George's suit came a long way. But how do we find out about George's cotton shirts? Where does cotton come from? And how does it become a shirt? This time, George writes to his uncle, Howard Williams. And this is how Mr. Williams answers.
Dear George, we raise cotton on my farm down here in Alabama. Cotton is a plant, you know, a plant that has big white bolls of cotton fiber and seeds. In late summer, we pick the cotton here on the farm. The cotton is sent to a cotton gin, where all the seeds are combed out. After the cotton is combed and carded, it is spun into thread. In another factory, the cotton thread is woven into bolts of cloth. In a clothing factory, the cloth is cut and sewn into shirts and other things we wear, and sent off across the country to stores everywhere. Yours truly, Uncle Howard, RFD1, Centerville, Alabama.
So that's where George's shirts came from. But now, the cloth in the necktie is different from the wool in the suit or the cotton in George's shirts. Where does the nylon in the necktie come from? Nylon is a new kind of fiber made from chemicals. Here, the chemical is squirted out through small holes to make soft, strong, synthetic textile fibers for neckties and for stockings and underwear and other things. Now, Mother has a beautiful silk dress. George knows where silk comes from Japan, where silkworms spin very fine threads. And Japanese workers weave the threads into silk cloth, like the cloth in Mother's dress. George knows where leather for shoes comes from, too. Skins from these cattle are sent to factories where the skins are tanned. Pieces just the right size are cut out and then sewn together to make shoes. There are other kinds of shoes, too. Shoes made of rubber to keep our feet dry in the rain. And George knows that some rubber comes from rubber trees in the East Indies. Sap is collected from these trees and used to make rubber. So many people help us get our clothing, people from all around the world. George is proud of the letters he has received from some of these people. And now, when he goes to town, It's twice as much fun looking in store windows because George knows where clothing comes from. Do you?